Welcome back to another episode of Throwing in the Towel. Each week I dive deep into the NFL season and make the tough call on which team it's time to give up on, whether it's due to a string of injuries, a losing streak, or just plain bad luck. Some teams just don't have what it takes to make it to the postseason, and in this week 4 edition of Throwing in the Towel, I will be picking team number 4, so make sure you stay tuned to the end to see who I'm throwing in the towel on this week, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more weekly NFL insights and tough calls. And with that, let's go ahead and get right into it, starting with the AFC East. And this is a rarity because we have all 4 teams this week representing, and a waiting game. And so we start with the Patriots, and the waiting game is ensuing for this organization. All that matters from this point forward is when Drake May enters the lineup and how he progresses from that point until the end of the season. Otherwise, New England can't compete offensively. Jacoby Brissett isn't talented enough to overcome the unit's shortcomings. The O-line isn't holding up and allows too much pressure, and the running game is modest and there's little in the way of receiving threats. This is a boring team to watch. And for the Dolphins, well, Plan D went out the window at quarterback, as has been the case since Tua got hurt. Miami's quarterback play was abysmal against the Titans. Huntley threw for less than 100 yards and was whistled for intentional grounding in his own end zone. All the skill position talent in the world is no good to the Dolphins right now because the team doesn't have a single color who can get the ball to Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. For the Jets, even if Aaron Rodgers doesn't show any ill effects from his fall last Sunday, the Jets should use this as a wake-up call to do a better job of protecting him. He took 5 sacks in that game, and the offensive line had a sloppy, penalty-ridden outing. The 5-man in front cannot let this happen again. Otherwise, if Rodgers gets hurt, well, there goes the season again. And for the Bills, it became clear when Derrick Henry took the first carry of the game, 87 yards to the house, that it wasn't going to be Buffalo's night. The Bills never got going offensively, managing just 236 yards of offense. Over in the AFC North, we have 2 representatives this week. We have the Browns and the Steelers. And for the Browns, you might hear plenty about how there's still time to turn things around in Cleveland, but this season looks lost. The injuries on the offensive line have rendered the offense ineffective, especially when it's run by a mediocre quarterback. The defense is cracking under the pressure of having to carry the team. Cleveland's next 4 games include a meeting with a red-hot Commanders team, the Eagles, and a couple AFC North rivals, and the Bengals and Ravens. Given how the Browns have looked this season, splitting those games might not happen. If the Browns hit the halfway mark at 3-5 or even 2-6, questions about this franchise future will get louder, and there are no easy answers in that regard either. And for the Steelers, there is no decision to make here. Justin Fields hasn't been flawless, but his performance in the second half Sunday was indicative of a ceiling he offers in this Pittsburgh offense that Russell Wilson does not. Fields has earned the right to start Sunday night against the Cowboys, although he might want to play good in the first half this time around. In the AFC South, we have a lone representative this week, and that is the Jacksonville Jaguars. And if there were any questions about the Jaguars unraveling, put those to rest. They've been answered. Especially when the team's coach puts his players on blast. Now, that will probably be downplayed as frustration, but it's fair. But given what he said, it's fair to wonder what condition his relationship with his players is in. Although he did say that he hasn't lost the locker room, but to be fair, what is he supposed to say that he did? The Jaguars are now 1-9 in their last 10 games. The team's quarterback that they signed to a extension that they probably shouldn't have given him, or at least shouldn't give him that much money, as he's now lost his last 9 starts in a row. And after the owner labeled this team the best version of this team in its history, well, he's certainly eaten his words, and he's not enjoying the taste of them. And in the AFC West, we have another lone representative, and that is the Chargers. And Jim Harbaugh's physical brand of football doesn't work when injuries mount or upend the starting lineup. This past weekend, the Chargers didn't have either of their starting offensive tackles. They didn't have Joey Bosa or Derwin James either. The Chargers battled the Chiefs, but what became obvious as the game progressed was the Chargers don't have the depth or overall talent to compete when obstacles are in their path. Once healthy, this team will be better, but they can't set the tone that they want when their key pieces are missing. So that does it for the AFC Division losers this week. We now move on to the Division Representatives, and in the East, we have the Patriots. In the North, we have the Browns. And then we have the lone representatives from the South, being the Jaguars, and the lone representative in the West, being the Chargers. So of these 4 teams, who represents the AFC this week? Well, I think the answer is pretty obvious. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars, the only winless team in the NFL currently. And with that, we move to the NFC, and we start in the East with a lone representative here, that being the Eagles. And Jalen Hurts cannot carry this team on offense, or at least he hasn't been to as of late. And while Saquon Barkley has been a great addition, if Jalen Hurts can't make these defenses pay through the air, they're just going to stack the boxes and try to take away Saquon. And perhaps most concerning was the performance of the secondary. The Eagles need this bye week badly to get healthy and try to figure something out in the secondary, because this does not look like a Super Bowl contender right now. In the NFC North, another lone representative here, that being the Green Bay Packers. And Jordan Love had a sluggish start to the game, and he did not appear 100% healthy. However, he found his groove late in the game and gave Green Bay some hope when it appeared to have none in the first half. Now, Love, you can expect to be better going forward as he gets more healthy, which will be enough to keep the Packers in playoff contention. However, Green Bay's defense still feels too inconsistent to allow Green Bay to be viewed as a true contender. NFC South, we have another lone representative here. That's kind of a theme here in the NFC, at least up to this point, and that's the Saints. And the Saints started this season on an offensive hot streak, beating up on a Bryce Young-led Panthers team and a suspect Cowboys defense. Then the Saints stepped up in weight class, and now, well, as they found out against the Falcons, this is a defense that punches back, Yes, they found out what happens when they meet a defense that will punch back, and the result was they lost to a Falcons team that didn't score any touchdowns on offense. So Clint Kubiak might want to refresh his offense to try to keep defenders on their heels. And in the NFC West, we have 3 representatives this week: the Cardinals, Rams, and Seahawks. And we start with the Rams, and it's time to face facts. The Rams are not very good in 2024. Partly it's a matter of injuries, as the Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are currently sidelined. The offensive line has also been ravaged by injuries, but the offensive line's not really a new story for the Rams. And partly it's a matter of not having Aaron Jones on defense, as their defense has been among the worst in the NFL over the first month of the season. As the Rams continue on what feels like an inevitable slide into a disappointing season, questions are going to be asked in some circles. One question in particular is Matthew Stafford's future in Los Angeles should the Rams end up with a losing season. For the Cardinals, if Arizona had any momentum on the first week of the season, well, it's probably gone now. The Cardinals now, after a tough loss at home against the Commanders, must hit the road for road games in San Francisco and Green Bay. The team we saw getting boat raced on Sunday isn't going to win either of those games. And if Arizona has just 1 win in 6 games, that will be that season most likely over at that point. Does it have an effect on the head coach, Jonathan Gannon? Maybe, maybe not. I would say too early to say on that. And lastly, the Seahawks. Let's not overreact here with this team and label them as pretenders. Seattle didn't get blown out in this game. They were certainly competitive and racked up over 500 yards of offense. But it certainly had the chance to make a statement here and simply just didn't do that. And part of that was on the defense. That defense played a major role in this team getting out to a 3-0 start, but flat out, this defense got folded by the Lions, which honestly is not that bad. I mean, yeah, it's bad when your defense performs terrible, but I can't blame them because you were playing the Lions, and that offense, when it gets going, is pretty explosive. So those are the division losers this week in the NFC. Who are representing the divisions this week? Well, it's kind of a giveaway because we had the 3 representatives, the lone representatives in the East with the Eagles, in the North with the Packers, and the South with the Saints. The West was the only team that had more than 1 team, and I picked the Rams to be the representative for the West this week. And of these 4 teams, who is the only one that's going to represent the NFC this week? Well, it's the Los Angeles Rams. So that is your throwing in the towel Super Bowl matchup this week. The Jacksonville Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence versus Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams. That's an intriguing matchup to say the least. So, So that is the NFC representative this week. Now we move into the recap section before we get to this week's team. And week 1, we had the Panthers, who, well, they got a good win in their first game with Danny Dalton under center, and then lost to the Bengals. Although I'll give them credit, they were competitive in that game. They played good. The Giants, tough loss to the Cowboys on Thursday night. And the Titans, well, hey, they got the first win of the season. Although, am I going to take this team seriously? Absolutely not. And with that, we're going to move into this week's team. And I think it's kind of obvious who it is. And that is, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars here. The only winless team in the NFL. Now, what is going to happen to this team should they end the season with a losing record? As of right now, the way I see it playing out is that I think ultimately Doug Peterson, the head coach, will be fired. They gave Trevor Lawrence that big money contract, so they're kind of stuck with him at the moment, it seems like. And GMs usually don't take any blame for anything they do wrong, so head coach usually ends up getting scapegoated. So either the offensive coordinator, Press Taylor, gets fired, and that's enough to save his job, or Doug Peterson himself gets fired. And with that, that does it for this week's edition of Throwing in the Towel. I'm Dougie Doug. Thank you so much for watching.